Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Friday, March 27th, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy Scribble Day. On today's show, I'm calling my shot, folks. This is the first time I've had the chance to sit down on a podcast and talk about the portal and talk about my expectations, talk about what I think is going to happen within the Ohio State program. You can go back and you can check to listen to my episodes this time last year, okay? You're not wasting your time here. I don't know if I may have gotten a player or two wrong, but the big names were correct, and whether they were leaving, going, whatever the case may be, or staying, we did pretty well. So call it intel, call it gut, call it whatever you want. I don't think that you're wasting your time listening to today's show. So today, I'm going to break down the transfer portal for Ohio State. I'm going to go through player predictions. Each player that has a decision to make, what will they do? I'll talk about the NIL situation at Ohio State specifically for a second. And then I will talk about what this team needs moving forward, in my opinion. Along with that, what will Ohio State do? Once players are gone, what is Ohio State going to do in the future? So that said, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You've got to subscribe. If you are a big-time Ohio State basketball follower or you want to know what's going on within the program during this crazy time, the transfer portal, you got to subscribe. You got to like the video on YouTube as well. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think Ohio State's going to do in the portal. And then the Substack is super helpful as well. Views from the Shop podcast.substack.com. Have had a bunch of new subscribers this week, and I've had people come and tell me, kind of whether it be in the DMs or whatever, and say, hey, I didn't realize that you had this much data in here, this much info in here, this much intel over the past year. I had no idea what I was missing out on. I'm not saying that's the case for you. It's not perfect for everyone, but if you want a free week trial is there, you can do that, or just go to the Substack. There's plenty of articles there that you can comb through. I did post an article this week on my projections for at least player decisions for Ohio State. I'll go through a little bit more of that here, but in the Substack, there's just more meat on the bone is the way I would put it. So let's get into what Ohio State is staring down at this point during the transfer portal window. The biggest thing for Ohio State is we've got to say goodbye to some players. Unfortunately, Ohio State cannot continue to have Bruce Thornton on the team at this point. Bruce Thornton heads out from Ohio State, probably going to go try to play in the NBA. I would if I were him. So Bruce Thornton gone after an incredible year and career at Ohio State. Christoph Tilley as well, senior center. He's got no more eligibility. Do not expect him back. Obviously, Brandon Knoll, the exact same way, transfers in after 3 years at Wright State. He's now played his fourth season of eligibility. He will not be back. And sixth-year senior, Puff Johnson, he may try to go get eligibility somewhere else, and if he does, that's all good. I don't think he's going to play for Ohio State next year, and I guess that's as much color as we need there. So Ohio State has some outgoing players. The Buckeyes have 4 players who will not return due to eligibility. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you got a huge graphic here that's showing you all the players that could stay on the roster for Ohio State. Obviously, you know the names like John Mobley Jr. and Devin Royal. Those are players who have decisions to make. Amari Bynum as well. Josh Ojawuna and Ivan Nagovin at center for Ohio State. And then you got a bunch of depth pieces like Gabe Cupps and Colin White, Tayson Chapman, and then some players who didn't get a lot of playing time whatsoever or even got redshirted. In Miles Harrow's case, you've got, of course, Cupps, Harrow. You've got Braylon Nash, Tayson Chapman, who got some more playing time down the stretch, Matthew Grujic, Colin White. Those are players who have decisions to make as well for Ohio State. And then you've got Anthony Thompson and Alex Smith coming in as freshmen. Anthony Thompson, a 5-star, top 10 player overall. Jake Diebler recruits, man. If there's one thing you can do, you can talk about talent evaluation, you can talk about roster construction. Recruiting is a place where he has been very, very strong. Anthony Thompson coming in as a 5-star and Alex Smith coming in as a 4-star. Just named MVP of Grind Session Championship for Prolific Prep. He was named MVP. 5 of 7 shooting. I think he was like 3 of 3 or 4 of 4 from deep the game before as well. So developing that shot is Alex Smith. He'll come in and play for Ohio State next year. So that said, you can count it up here. The Buckeyes have 13 players here on the roster right now. If everyone comes back, I don't expect that to be the case, and I'm sure that you don't either. But of those 13 players, you've got a few of those not really necessarily difference makers. If they want to come back, I'm sure they can. Others of which may get processed out. Others of which still may just decide the portal is the best option for them. So now what we want to do is we want to work into, I've got, like I said, 11 players here who have decisions to make. I'm going to go from guard to forward to center, which means Amari Bynum, a name you may be really curious about. You're going to have to wait a little bit on him. I'm going to try to get through these pretty quickly. A lot of times shows in the offseason, they just drift and drift and drift, and before long it's like 45 minutes or 50 minutes before the episode is over. Maybe you're into that. I don't know. I don't want to do that on this show, quite frankly, so I'm going to do my best not to. So we've got 11 players to make decisions on. Let's start with, I'm going to go through predict every single player. And the first player that I'm going to start with is John Mobley Jr. Junie, the starting shooting guard for Ohio State last season. Let's talk about my expectations for Junie. This one's pretty simple for me. Again, he's a Columbus kid. He went out west to play his prep ball. We know all this. John Mobley Jr., I said in the last show, he feels like just a Buckeye of all Buckeyes. The finger injury that he dealt with, getting back as quickly as he did, playing through the pain. I don't know what you get out of leaving Ohio State if you're John Mobley Jr., other than sure, maybe you can get a higher payday elsewhere, but John Mobley Jr. just feels like a Buckeye. So because of that, I would expect John Mobley Jr. to return. I've got a pretty high level of confidence that John Mobley Jr. is a Buckeye for his junior season. Obviously, he's got 2 more years left to go here in college. We'll talk about what his role may look like next year. That's a note that I have here that I want to get to. So I'll talk about his role next year. There's some questions about that, but John Mobley Jr., I would expect him to be back next season. Next player we're going to touch on here, it's Gabe Cupps. Why was Taysom on the screen there for a second? Gabe Cupps, man. I've got the short there. I've got the one highlight reel that Gabe Cupps created this entire season based on his play, and it's about a 40-second highlight reel of him against Oregon, one of which getting shoved and drawing a foul. So it was what it was for Gabe Cupps. I think that he is a bit of a unique situation here for Gabe Cupps because down the stretch, he did play better basketball. We can't argue against the fact that Gabe Cupps did play better down the stretch. Now, you may not like him, and that's totally fine. I think that, the Post getting a lot of attention about how Gabe Cupps had more fouls than he had points at a certain part of the season. Like, I completely understand that. At the same time, I do think Gabe Cupps gets more hate than he probably deserves to get. I think that, again, he played better down the stretch. And as a guy coming off the bench, he's not the worst option that you've got. However, I don't want him to be my 6th man if I'm Jake Diebler at Ohio State. So decisions have got to be made for him. What I will say is that I think the coaching staff would like to have Gabe Cupps back. I think that they would accept him back. They would take him back 100%. I do believe that. I think Gabe Cupps, he's got a decision to make on, do I want to leave? Do I want to go try to start somewhere? Do I even drop down a level and take a look at like a UD or a Wright State? He's a guy from Centerville, suburb of Dayton, so maybe he decides to go local and go to a smaller school. Like, that could be an option for him for sure. I don't know. I'm sure UD would take him. No chance that he wouldn't, or that UD wouldn't. That said, I do believe that Gabe Cupps will come back. Unless there's a change of heart, I do believe that Gabe Cupps will be a Buckeye next season. That's my prediction as of now. Again, this is kind of, I don't know how to say it. It's a prediction. It is, there's a lot of intel here, but I haven't got an answer yet fully, but right now I lean toward Gabe Cupps being back at Ohio State. Again, I would take him for 12 minutes a game. Is that going to be the role for him next year? I don't know. Next player we'll talk about, Miles Harrow and Braylon Nash. I'll get through them quickly. If they want to come back next season, they will be allowed to come back next season. There's no question about it. They're out to the end of the bench. They're not highly expensive whatsoever. They're getting paid nothing compared to what everyone else is getting paid. I assume they're getting paid. Look, I'm not the guy to know, okay? I don't know that much. I assume that there's some kind of compensation for being on the basketball team. If they want to come back, they can come back. The only difference would be, especially for Miles Harrow, maybe he decides he wants to transfer to a much lower level and get some playing time. I don't know, but I would expect both of them back. I don't think those are players necessarily that we're all that concerned about at this point. A player that everyone is concerned about at this point. It's Taysom Chapman. Folks, I don't want to be the guy to say this, but I'll be the guy. Just like a lot of fans right now, I would much rather have Taysom Chapman back at Ohio State next year. Even if it means Gabe Cupps comes back, that's fine. I want Taysom Chapman on my favorite basketball team next year. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I think there's a lot that goes into the Taysom Chapman decision, right? The first thing is he chose Ohio State. And then he chose Ohio State again, and now he's got the chance to choose Ohio State again. He dealt with the ACL injury. That all happened, right? But he came back for this year. There were questions, I think, from all of us of what are we going to get out of Taysom Chapman? What are we going to see out of Taysom Chapman? What is he going to give? And what's his role going to look like? And you know what? Once he had a role this year, once he had real playing time, he played really well for Ohio State. Now, down the stretch, talked about in the last show, he dealt with the groin injury. He at times had really boneheaded mistakes, struggled with turnovers, and then I think we have questions about him defensively. Sure, that's fine. But all in all, I think you have that, along with the fact that Taysom Chapman can go sit down with Coach Diebler. He can sit down with the staff. He can try to negotiate what's my compensation going to look like next year. And very easily you can say, you know what? I don't think I want to do this again. I was promised, I don't know what he was promised last year, but I was promised something last year. And I went through all of the summer competing and trying to get back from this ACL. I worked hard in November. I practiced hard in December, just waiting for my shot. And every single night, I watched Gabe Cupps go out there and have 18 points. No, he did not have 18 points. 18 minutes, 0 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound. And that was his day. I mean, he's just out there getting cardio. And if I'm Taysom Chapman, I could make it a very easy argument for myself to say, you know what? I'm just not doing this again. I'm good enough at basketball. I've proved myself down the stretch that I can be an offensive weapon off the bench for Ohio State. That's a Big Ten conference team. I did it against good opponents, including Wisconsin. So that said, thank you guys for all your work here, and thank you for your help and support and all that stuff. But I'm just going to go test the waters. I'm going to hit the portal, and I'm going to see what happens here. And quite frankly, that's my prediction for Taysom Chapman right now. I think that unless Ohio State, and again, my feel is that Ohio State's going to keep Gabe Cupps over Taysom Chapman. If that's the case, and if there's only room for one, then what does Taysom Chapman have to say? What does Taysom Chapman do? Why would he come back at this point? I think Taysom Chapman's going to leave Ohio State. I think he's going to enter the portal. I think he's going to go somewhere else. I think a lot of fans are going to get upset about that, and rightfully so. I, just like you, most likely, would much rather have Taysom Chapman than Gabe Cupps on my favorite basketball team next year. That is not the vibes I get. So that said, I think that Chapman will be gone. I think that he will hit the portal. I think he should hit the portal. And I will root for him hard, and I'm sure a lot of other people will. I think it's the right thing to do for Taysom Chapman, so I think that Taysom Chapman will be gone next season. Next one, Matthew Grujic is a player that I will talk about very briefly. Look, he played 6 games this year, and the staff obviously didn't trust him down the stretch. Braylon Nash was getting playing time over Matthew Grujic, right? And Braylon Nash was a walk-on at Ohio State before NIL. So, before the scholarship limit was removed, and you could just have 15 players on the roster. Braylon Nash was a walk-on. So that said, if you're playing behind a walk-on, I'm not sure what the future holds for you at Ohio State. I would say that he would want to be back. He was on the show last year, guys. So I would say that Gru wants to be back at Ohio State. I think this is the type of player that gets processed out. I know a lot of fans wanted to see more of him, wanted to see him get playing time, but clearly the trust just wasn't there. Unfortunately, he looks really good, man. I mean, you just go back and watch his highlights before he came to the United States. He looks like a really, really good basketball player. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like it worked out in Columbus. So that said, I think Gru is gone. All right. Probably the biggest name that you have questions on. I don't think it's that hard to imagine that Devin Royal has got a decision to make here. I don't think it's hard to imagine, the top 3 is probably John Mobley Jr., Devin Royal, and Amari Bynum. Those are the names that you're thinking about. Devin Royal is probably the one that has the toughest decision to make. And I'm just going to, I've never talked to Devin Royal, okay? I will talk as if I'm Devin Royal right now, okay? Here's my thought process. 3 years at Ohio State, and I'm an Ohio kid. I'm a blue chip guy, by the way, a 4-star, very high 4-star coming out of high school. I stay home. I wear the block O across my chest for 3 seasons. I get better every year. I would say we saw a little bit better and a little bit better from Devin Royal year over year. The shot improved as a junior. There were frustrations. There's frustration with shot quality and things like that for sure. But all in all, what we saw was Devin Royal just get better every year and leading the team in rebounding 2 years in a row now at Ohio State. But man, I'm looking at the roster next year. I'm a senior, and I don't know about my NBA ceiling. I think I would have to have an incredible senior year to even have any kind of a shot playing in the NBA. My three-point shot's got to get way better. My shot selection, my decision-making, my ability to score off the dribble and not just off posting people up and backing them down into the paint. I got to get more versatile if I'm going to play in the NBA. That's my assumption for how the NBA would see Devin Royal. But man, if that's the case, and I'm looking at the roster next year, I see a 5-star coming in to start at small forward. I don't think Anthony Thompson's going to come off the bench. You got Anthony Thompson coming in, and then you got a really, really strong power forward. And Amari Bynum, who played really well down the stretch, highly consistent for Ohio State. Things to work on? Yeah, sure, of course. But not a perfect player, a great player for Ohio State. A lot of fans would love to have Amari Bynum back. And if that's the case, what am I going to play next year? If I can't start at the 3, and if Amari Bynum's going to start over me, am I going to want to come off the bench? I would assume not. I would assume not if I am Devin Royal. And because of that, I can very clearly see the path for where for Devin Royal moving back to or moving into the portal. I struggle to see where the value that he carries in the portal is the same or lower than the value that he carries at Ohio State. Look, Ohio State, Jake Diebler, they're going to bring in a 5-star small forward. You're going to bring in a high 4-star, or not the highest of 4 stars, but a 4-star, a mid-level 4-star, and Amari Bynum, if you can retain him. And if that's the case, where do I go? Do I come off the bench? And look, I'm going in my senior year, right? Like, this is my final time. If I don't think I have much of an NBA ceiling, this is going to be the highest paycheck that I earn most likely for the rest of my life. I'm never going to make more money than I will in this year, so I'm going to go maximize it. If I were Devin Royal, that's what I would do. I would go hit the portal, and then I would wait for any kind of program, whether it be a Michigan State, whether it be Texas, or a Purdue. Matt Painter, not too fond of the portal. I don't know who else Devin Royal was really close or in on in terms of his recruitment out of high school, and there's so much coaching change. I don't know. Maybe he goes SEC. Maybe he goes Big 12. Maybe he goes ACC. I have no idea. I don't think he comes back to Ohio State. I think there's too many things going against him, and if I were advising Devin Royal, I would say leave. If I were Jake Diebler, I would say go. Go get your paycheck somewhere else. You can get more money elsewhere than you can here. You got 1 year left. Use it and enjoy it. Playing college basketball. Really, really good player. I struggle to see the fit for Devin Royal next year if I'm Ohio State. Or if I'm Devin Royal. So I think Devin Royal's gone, okay? Let's recap real quick. John Mobley Jr., back. Gabe Cupps, back. Miles Harrell, Braylon Nash, back. Tayson Chapman, gone. Matthew Grudicic, gone. And Devin Royal enters the portal. Colin White, I'll be pretty quick on this one. Ohio kid, Mr. Basketball in the state of Ohio, his senior year. I think he loves Ohio State. I think he loves being at Ohio State. I think at some point it just comes to the point where you say, you know what, this isn't really working. I'm not getting the playing time here maybe that I wanted, or maybe playing time doesn't matter that much to me necessarily, but coaching staff kind of decides, yeah, it's time to process you out. We haven't seen the growth necessarily over 2 years, and for that reason, I think Colin White does hit the portal this year. That would mean that the 2 players so far that have joined the show over the summer, gone. Go to the portal. Don't join the Views from the Shop podcast if you want to stay at Ohio State the next year. So I think Colin White is gone. I think he goes for greener pastures. I think he might take a step down. And look, I mean, this was a player, by the way, I'll say it, okay? After his freshman season, going into this upcoming season, there was a team calling for him that is playing in the Sweet 16. That's as specific as I would like to be. So he had suitors last year, and it's a surprise Sweet 16 team. It's a surprise good team. It's a surprise good Big Ten team. But there were programs out there who still wanted Colin White. So after 2 years, maybe the market will be there for him. I don't think he returns to Ohio State. That was kind of long-winded on Colin White. Sorry. All right. The big kahuna is Amari Bynum. What do we think Amari Bynum is going to do? I think I probably made this pretty clear at this point, right? Like, I've said Devin Royal, I don't expect him back. Anthony Thompson's going to start at the 3. I've said over and over, if Amari Bynum starts at the 4, I believe that Amari Bynum will get wrapped up, and I believe that he will return to Ohio State this upcoming year. You look at his play down the stretch, you look at offensively, defensively, plays really, really high-level basketball on both sides of the ball. I think Ohio State values that. I think Jake Diebler really wants that. I'm watching highlights of him play against Wisconsin. Buckeyes go up 12-4, and then it was crap after that. So hopefully that doesn't happen again this upcoming year, and Amari Bynum can help that not happen. But I think Ohio State does lock up Amari Bynum. It's kind of been, and I've said this, look, like, if you're curious, I have given more than enough breadcrumbs, even toward the end of the year, on my thoughts, on my feelings, on my predictions, as stuff like that, as I talk to people. Amari Bynum has always been a player that I've said, yeah, it feels like Bynum is probably back and Devin Royal is gone. So that opinion hasn't really changed. So that said, I think that Ohio State retains Amari Bynum, and they've got their starting power forward this upcoming season. Let's move on to the one and the only Ivan Nagovin. All right. Look, he is who he is, and he is a depth center. He's not a floor stretcher. You need him to rebound, you need him to block shots, and you need him to take a couple field goals every once in a while and make them at about a 70% rate. That's what Ivan Nagovin did this season. I think Ohio State likes him. I think he likes Ohio State. I think Ivan Nagovin is back, and I think he's back as a center depth piece for Ohio State. The last player with a decision to make. We have made it, folks. Remember him? Josh Ojawuna out of Baylor comes to Ohio State this season. Apparently, I was told this by just one person, so I don't know. I can't, like, what was it, like social studies in 4th grade or something, where we learn about a primary source and a secondary source, and a primary source was there, a secondary source wasn't there, or maybe like heard it from someone. I only have one source here. I don't know if it's like a tertiary source or how far we get here. I only heard this from one person. All that to say, maybe the plan was for Josh Ojawuna to not play at all this year for Ohio State. Maybe the plan all along was to redshirt him, knowing that they had Tilly in the fold for this upcoming year, and then they play him next year to start at center. Maybe that was the plan all along. I'm not sure, but it's possible. So Josh Ojawuna, he's more of a traditional center. He's got incredible explosion and athleticism. That's something that we saw pre-ACL. I don't know where he is health-wise. I don't know where he is recovery-wise. I know that the numbers back it up when he played at Baylor. I mean, let's just take a look at this courtesy of College Basketball Analytics. In his previous season at Baylor, he had a where are we at here? He had a 10.9% offensive rebounding rate. That's 80th percentile in college basketball. And he had a 15% defensive rebounding rate, which was not very good whatsoever, but it was what it was. And then that was his sophomore year. You go to his junior year. That's where, again, his season was cut short, but offensive rebounding rate was at 12.3%. That's really good. Defensive rebounding rate then jumped to 18.3%. That's solid as well. His block rate jumped to 3.4%. Steal rate 2.4%. That's really good. I mean, guy is listed at 6'10". He's really, really long. So that type of player, I think, bodes well for Ohio State. Now, the question for Ojawuna is, does he start this upcoming season? And I don't have an answer to that right now. I think that he's going to have the opportunity to start at the 5 for Ohio State. That said, I do think that Josh Ojawuna returns to Ohio State this upcoming year. So that said, returns, retained, John Mobley Jr., Gabe Cupps. I think I got a graphic for this, don't I? Let's see here. Yeah. This is predictions too, so don't look at that anymore on YouTube. Don't do that. We're not ready for that. John Mobley Jr. back. Gabe Cupps back. Miles Harrell, Braylon Nash back if they want to come back. Amari Bynum, Josh Ojawuna, and Ivan Nagovin retained as well. Leaving from Ohio State, Taysom Chapman, sad. Grew, sad for a lot of people. Devin Royal, sad for some. Colin White, very sad for me. I'm going to miss having him on the show. If he leaves, I don't know. We'll see. So that's my prediction. So now, where do things go moving forward for Ohio State? Well, the first thing is NIL. That's something everyone wants to talk about. I tweeted about it this week. Cincinnati, $10+ million roster, brand new head coach. Going to be harder for Ohio State to recruit in the state of Ohio. And then we have people who are like, it doesn't matter if you recruit in the state of Ohio. There hasn't been high school talent since Obama was president. Okay, and my point still stands. Yeah, the talent is good. I just said that on the show like 4 days ago. Guy, relax. That said, it's still going to be harder. Would you like to have Anthony Thompson or not? Would you like to lose Anthony Thompson to Cincinnati or not? When there's talent there, it'd be nice to retain him. That's all I'm saying. Relax, folks. That said, Twitter is fine. Twitter is what Twitter is. And that, by the way, hard aside here. Hard pivot. Back to the Substack, the chat, insider subscriber chat. A lot of people... By the way, insider subscribers, if you're listening, I took all of your survey info, and just so you know, I'm gonna react to that at some point soon and give you an update on kind of where we might take the Substack, because I hear your responses. Part of that, and this is for everyone now, you can all come back in. Part of that is, what is part of that? Where are we going with that? Boy, that sucks. I didn't even remember what I was going to. Oh, that's right. Community, insider subscriber community. A lot of them like it because it's so much less toxic than Twitter. And if you get toxic, I will boot you out of here. All right. Don't get toxic on the insider subscriber chat. That said, not toxic there. They like the community. I don't even know why I brought that up. That said, because Twitter's toxic. Yeah. I think Ohio State's roster is going to cost a lot. Last year, I think that the public number was somewhere around $6 to $8 million. Look, if you're going to return John Mobley Jr., if you're going to return Amari Bynum, and then you're going to bring in a 5-star and Anthony Thompson, who rumor has it like $2 to $4 million, I think is what publicly was stated, and that's not off. I guess he's probably in that range, I believe, although I don't remember for sure. But that said, if that's the case, if Anthony Thompson costs let's say $2 million, John Mobley Jr., what's he cost? 2 to 3, probably. Amari Bynum, what's he cost? 2 to 3, probably. Guess what? We've added to the absolute floor $6 million right there. That's 3 players. You're going to fill out the rest of the roster with $2 million? I don't think so. So I think Ohio State's roster is going to be well above $10 million this year. I don't have a number. I'm just guessing at this point. I will be more than transparent to say when I don't have information. I know 1.2 million has been floated out there. I think it's going to be way more than that of an increase from last year. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not just going to say stuff to say stuff. Sometimes I don't know. And I'm good saying I don't know sometimes. With that said, I think the NIL will increase this year. There's going to be more resources for Ohio State to spend. That said, what does this Ohio State team need? I think that's a big question that a lot of us have is, what is the roster going to look like next year? Look, there's questions about if John Mobley Jr. can play the 1. John Mobley Jr. might play the 1 next year. Last I've heard is it's just too early to tell. That said, if I were John Mobley Jr., if I were in his camp, I would be saying I want John Mobley Jr. to play the 1 next year. Why? Because John Mobley Jr. is listed at 6'1". When's the last time you heard of a really good 6'1" shooting guard in the NBA? Doesn't happen. John Mobley Jr. very undersized to play in the NBA already. He's going to have to move to point guard if he wants to play in the NBA. I'm sure he does want to play in the NBA. So that said, I would say John Mobley Jr.'s side is probably going to push to play the 1. It's probably going to be a possibility for Ohio State. I don't want that whatsoever. I want John Mobley Jr. coming off the ball. All of the actions off the screens is what I want. And I want him shooting 3-pointers, and I want him making 44% next year and going crazy. If we can get that out of him, this team needs a point guard to fill Bruce Thornton's shoes, to facilitate the offense, to be the guy on the ball, finding an Anthony Thompson, finding a John Mobley Jr. Man, how fun is it going to be to watch Anthony Thompson next year? It's going to be really fun. Finding Amari Bynum, whatever the case may be, the vision, the decision-making, that's what I want in a starting point guard. That's what I want. That's what I think a need is. I don't know if Ohio State goes that way. I think Ohio State also needs a stretch 5. Amari Bynum developed the 3-ball down the stretch, but Josh Ojawuna, no 3-point shooting production in his time in college so far. Ivan Nagovin the exact same way. I want a 5 who can shoot the 3. Now, this year with Christoph Tilley, technically, we thought he had that ability. it didn't really show. It didn't come to fruition. But on this upcoming year's roster, you've got two traditional bigs in Ngovin and Ojawuna. I want a guy who can shoot the three. I want a guy who can rebound well. And that's my opinion at the 5. Okay, so I would like to see a stretch 5. I would like to see Ohio State grab a guy there. Maybe he can shoot a little bit. Maybe he can handle the ball like a Christoph Tilly and make decisions and be more of a point center. I don't care. I just want some kind of yin to the yang of Ngovin and Ojawuna. You're also going to need a bench spark. So that's a big thing that I think Ohio State needs. If you're not going to have Tayson Chapman retained and you're going to keep Gabe Cupps, you need someone who can score off the bench for Ohio State. That's going to be a huge, huge need for Ohio State. So I'll show you my predictions now, and I'll show you why it's such a big need for the Buckeyes. Look, right now at guard, you're looking at John Mobley Jr., and I think you're looking at a transfer starting guard as well. It may be a point guard, it may be a 2 guard, and John Mobley Jr. moves to the 1. I don't know. But right now, that's what I expect. That's what I expect Ohio State to do, is to go grab a starting guard out of the portal. Coming off the bench, you've got Gabe Cupps, you've got Miles Harrow, you've got Braylon Nash. Coming off the bench at forward, you've got Alex Smith, and, well, that's it. So that said, who's going to score? Who's going to score when John Mobley Jr. is not in, and Anthony Thompson's not in, and Amari Bynum's not in? Who's going to score? I don't have an answer for that. Maybe it's already on the roster. Maybe it is Gabe Cupps. Maybe it's Alex Smith. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable about that whatsoever. So that's why I say, number 1, Ohio State's going to go out and get a starting guard. They also need, and I think they will pick up, a transfer combo guard who can come off the bench and score. Now, whether that's combo guard, maybe combo wing, that may be the better definition. It's a player who's going to come off the bench, maybe can play the 2, maybe can play the 3. Kind of what you were hoping Matthew Grudjicic could be this year. That's what I would expect for Ohio State in the coming year, is a guy who could maybe play the 3, a little bit more size, because this is going to be a very undersized backcourt with John Mobley Jr. at 6'1", Gabe Cupps as well. Where's Gabe Cupps? Gabriel! There he is. Oh, I clicked on Bruce Thornton. He was 6'2", in case you're curious. Here's Gabe Cupps. Gabe Cupps is 6'2". So you got a 6'1", 6'2" guard there in the backcourt. You got to get a transfer, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", whatever the case may be. And then at forward for Ohio State, Anthony Thompson starting at the 3, Amari Bynum starting at the 4, Alex Smith coming off the bench. I don't know how much playing time he gets this upcoming year. I'm hopeful. I don't know. And then I think the last thing Ohio State will get is a transfer center to compete with Josh Ojawuna and have the chance to start. I don't know who starts at center for Ohio State. Honestly, knowing what Ojawuna can be for Ohio State, I hope he comes off the bench, because that means you've got an incredible center 2, I guess you can say, to come off the bench for Ohio State. You've got a really, really strong center who can come off the bench in Ojawuna. You got Ngovin back there as well, and maybe you got a starting center who's just a little bit better for Ohio State there. One question mark I have is, do they add a forward in the portal? Overall, I think you're going to see 8 to 9 real contributors on this team. That obviously does not include Miles Harrow. It does not include Braylon Nash. I don't know if that includes Alex Smith or not, but there may be room for a 3 or a 4, hopefully a 3, because right now, I mean, again, who comes off the bench to replace Anthony Thompson at the 3 for Ohio State? It would be great if that were Devin Royal. I don't think that's going to be the case. Obviously, this prediction is based on a lot of guessing, but that's where I think Ohio State goes. I think they pick up a starting guard. I think they pick up a transfer combo guard as well, a transfer center who can start potentially or come off the bench as well and be a good option there. And then the 4th addition maybe is a 3 or a 4 that can come off the bench and play for Anthony Thompson, but probably a 3. So that is my expectation. Look at that. 35-ish minutes. We're getting out of here. That's pretty solid. That's what I think Ohio State is going to do. Now, what we do from here, again, you've got to subscribe. If you're not subscribed to the Views from the Shop podcast and you want transfer portal information, you want to know what's going on the second it happens, and not just a tweet. There's plenty of people out there who can tweet. Not a lot of people out there who are doing what I do, which is fine with me. I kind of like it. At the same time, like, you can get your written stuff from Adam Jardy and Connor Lamons and whatever the case may be. But if you want consistent podcasting, YouTube shows, you want to see highlights, you want insider intel, you just want to know what's going on within the program, you just got to subscribe everywhere. This is your one platform for transfer portal coverage and Ohio State coverage year-round, no matter what. So subscribe on YouTube, like the video on YouTube, please. I would appreciate that. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to the Substack. That's huge. Views from the Shop podcast.substack.com. All right. I don't know when I will be back. I really don't know. I am thrilled with this time of year because over the past month or so, there are so many games, there are so few breaks. I'm not here to be a victim. Like, I signed up for this and no one's forcing me to do this, but there were a lot of nights where I was getting to bed past midnight, 1 o'clock, waking up early the next day and trying to live my life. And I was very tired. So I'm catching up on sleep right now, which is great. And you know what? If there's not a show for a couple more days here, I'm not going to be upset. That said, I will be back when there's notable news, or I might be back at some point. I need to talk about Bruce Thornton. I need to talk about Bruce Thornton's legacy. So I will do that at some point as well. Make sure you're subscribed. All right. Enjoy your Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.